Thank you so much for joining us. Veterans Mefloquine Conference. I think it's proper fitted that we have it here today at the memorial. All of us veterans coming together to remember our brothers and sisters who either was impacted by this harmful drug or just for advocacy and learning more about it like I am today. I'd first like to call up Marj Matchette to welcome everyone. Marj, thank you so much for coming up.
I just really want to take a quick minute to thank you all for coming yesterday and being part of this 2-day event now. I want you to enjoy yourself here today. It's relaxed. We have some nice speakers for you, some phenomenal people. I hope you learned some more. We have a nice presentation to give, and that's Barbecue Alley at your back there. We have the barbecue master, so Rick is back there, and he will be ready to feed you when we're done. So I'm not going to hold this up. I'm going to give it back to our MC Charles, and he's going to introduce our guest speakers. Enjoy yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marj, for the introduction. Okay, so our first speaker today I'd just like to introduce is a staunch supporter of this Mefloquine conference. She's been with us every step of the way. So I'd like to welcome the Member of Parliament for Yorkton Melville, MP Cathay Wagantall.
Thank you, everyone. It was so good to be with you yesterday. And it's true, I've been with Marj in this wonderful work that she's been doing for the last, I'm in my 9th year as a Member of Parliament. And I have served on the Standing Committee of Veterans Affairs for that full amount of time. I call myself the matron of the committee, which in some ways is a compliment. In other ways, it's frustrating because that means that there is constant turnover. We've gone through a lot of elections, a lot of changes in committee makeup and changes in who's the minister and all of these things that quite honestly just simply aggravate the ability to make sure that people really know what the issues are. And I'm kind of back in that state right now again with, we've got a great team on our side of the floor. I am part of the official opposition, which means that we are challenging the existing Liberal government and its somewhat still NDP and Bloc partners that are keeping them in power. So what I want to say is that this issue is so important to my heart, partially because of the fact that I was on the Hill as a brand new member when someone named Claude Lalonde contacted us all, and it was some veteran out there just angry that this drug had been used inappropriately, and he had been listening, this is in his email, and had been listening to this guy named Dr. Nevin on the radio. And it just changed everything for him because he was Canadian Airborne and served in Somalia with a number of you guys for strike until something was done to bring this back into the limelight. And contacted him, we just said, Claude, where are you? We can't find you. We want to meet you. And he says, I went home. I said, what do you mean? Why did you go home? He said, because Bauer or so, 3 ministers, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, National Defense, and Health, met with him. Now, I'm new at that point, but I got to tell you, who gets 3 ministers within 30 minutes of coming to the Hill on any issue to come and sit down and talk? So we knew that this was something that was really important. And of course, they made him promises they didn't keep. They took some photos, of course. And then when things didn't turn out to be what they had said, he came back to the Hill and really was efficient at creating a lot of attention. So at that point in time, we had the opportunity to fix it. And the chair of the committee said, who's a Liberal? He said, Cathay, he seems like you, what can we do to take care of this? Get it out of here. I said, well, you got to meet with him. We need to have committee time with him. And so that's when Dave Bona, John Dow, Claude, and Brandon Klett came, all individuals who'd been severely impacted by this drug. And he asked for this Dr. Nevin to come. Well, they were willing. They said, let's just bring him in by video. And I said, you want to get rid of this guy? No. Dr. Nevin needs to be in the room. And that's when, for the first time, honestly, beyond those years in Somalia when the government did what they did with that drug, that it became top of mind. And I have to be fair, everybody in that room as we studied this were blown away. But unfortunately, not a whole lot has been done since then, other than in the midst of those sessions, Health Canada quietly moved that monogram that Dr. Nevin was talking about up front and center in the monogram. And then we had a committee of the whole. And what that is you sit down a minister in the House, and then you have a team of opposition that can just fire questions at them. And National Defense had the Minister of Defense, but they said, would you come, Cathy, and talk about this drug? So I asked him, I said, the Governor General, or the Governor General, who am I saying? Surgeon General, thank you. Not enough sleep. He still has never done anything on this. And as a result, the next summer, a report came out quietly that said, well, this isn't an issue anymore because we don't even, Afghanistan is winding down and it's hardly been used. And now our soldiers have the opportunity to make a choice of what they want. And this was the first drug of requirement up until that time. So it was no longer required that they use it. So they felt that they've taken care of things, which of course we all know today is not the case. So all that to say, I really appreciate that Marj has gone across the country with this. I've been in Kingston and last year, Ottawa, Kingston, Edmonton, Saskatoon here, and meeting so many more veterans that need to be aware of and appreciate that this is top of mind for a lot of people and for me. I've had the opportunity now to bring this to the attention of the folks that I work with on my side of the floor. So we're the opposition. We're working hard to bring this government down in the next while, sooner than later. And we are passionate about our veterans and national defense. I know you hear that a lot. I'm not here to give you any big promises today, but I can tell you in the past, we have said this needs to be dealt with. The inquiry, as Marj wants, and many of you, needs to be reopened at the point where it was closed, because it was closed on Mefloquine. So I won't say any more other than that. I'm so pleased to be here. I look forward to the opportunity to have this event back on the Hill when it can really make a difference, and I think that time is coming. I just want to thank Mike for being here and for this mass tort that's going on. That is a powerful tool. Please, you guys, hang in there. Dave, Bona, a lot of you that are there helping each other. When we say veterans helping veterans, I say to my friends, that doesn't mean that these are veterans who have no issues and have never had a problem that are helping other veterans. They are helping each other in the midst of everything. So all that, and Dr. Nevin, every time I hear you, I'm more encouraged. First time I met him, I said, I can't stand this. It's taking way too long. And he laughed. And that was 9 years ago. So I just want to thank you for embracing me and giving me the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for what you're doing with this. Thank you for caring for each other. Government has a role, but they shouldn't be in business, and they shouldn't be deciding what veterans choose to do for their care. So those are things that I think belong to you. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's an honor, and it's humbling to be here with you. Thanks.
Moving on to our next speaker, I just wanted to say a few words because this is the first time being introduced to this gentleman. I met him yesterday, and as an intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy, I'm all about data, information, and facts and evidence, right? So the amount of data, information, and the way he put it and delivered it yesterday was phenomenal. I was late for another event that I had in Port Renfrew because I was just so drawn into the conference. I even put in my own 2 cents afterwards, and we started some good discussion pieces, and it was just so much information. I just want to welcome back Dr. Remington-Nevin. And I just want to state as well, we had three live streams going on yesterday with different amount of viewers, but total, it was 187,000 viewers. That is phenomenal. So I just wanted to congratulate everyone on that as a huge accomplishment, and that is something to be proud of. So Dr. Nevin. First time. And thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So thank you very much for that really kind welcome. So I spoke for many hours yesterday, and I know I tried your patience, particularly at the end when I said I think we'll speak for another 5 or 10 minutes, and I ended up speaking for 2 hours. So I will not do the same today. But I perhaps what I can do is briefly just share some historical perspectives for context on this issue. As you know, I'm a physician. I'm an epidemiologist. My training has included a study of various health problems associated with various occupations. And this is nothing new. What everyone here is going through is something that has been experienced in one way or another by various occupational groups dating back hundreds of years, right? Mefloquine neurotoxicity, as we spoke about yesterday, is just one form of occupational neurotoxicosis, right? There are various chemicals that workers of various kinds have been exposed to over the years. Solvents, lead, mercury, other heavy metals. And just as it is with mefloquine, what you share with workers exposed to all of these other chemicals is denial, right? The companies that expose workers to these chemicals deny that initially that these pose a danger to your health. They delay the inevitable acknowledgement of these problems, and they put various barriers in the way of getting the care you need and the concessions and admissions that everyone is seeking. So in that context, I want to reassure you, you're on track. You're on schedule. Progress of this nature is never fast. For some context, Ingrid and I are likely relocating to Illinois, a small town called Galena. And Galena is the name of the mineral that we used to get our lead from, right? Neurotoxic lead. They started mining it there in the 1800s. It was several decades until it was widely recognized that lead neurotoxicity was a concern. Various industries promoted the use of lead in consumer products throughout the 1900s. And it was really only a few decades ago that despite years of knowledge of the dangers of lead, that there were even the most elemental safety procedures applied to the mining and industrial processing of lead. And it was only with EPA and OSHA in the States that we began to see significant action. And of course, today we all recognize the dangers of lead. There's all sorts of efforts made to limit the exposure to lead and to treat particularly young children exposed to lead. But that was a process that evolved over well over 100 years, right? So too with mercury, so too with solvents, so too with various petrochemicals. I could stand here and lecture you for the whole day about the various chemicals that folks have long known were dangerous, but that faced decades of manufacturing, of doubt about their health risks. Not in an occupational setting, but in a setting we all perhaps are familiar with, tobacco, right? The cancer-causing effects of tobacco were well known. They were known with certainty in the 1950s and certainly by the 1960s, if one bothered to read the studies. And how long was it that folks battled the tobacco industry for acknowledgement of the dangers of tobacco? It was really only in the 90s that the various epidemiologists and scientists and hired hands that the tobacco companies funded were finally simply unable to continue to manufacture doubt about the dangers of tobacco. And what was it? It was despite all of the evidence in scientific journals, despite all the advocacy work of individuals seeking acknowledgement and compensation, it was the work of attorneys. It was the work of folks demanding that the truth come out in the organized context of a courtroom, where you can subject the other side to rigorous cross-examination, where the supposed certainty of the experts that were paid to manufacture doubt, where they are finally made to answer questions under oath and really have their supposed certainty tested by folks on the other side. It was that legal process that inevitably led to the forces and the powers that be finally conceding what we all knew, that, in fact, smoking cigarettes poses a risk of cancer. So this is all to say that where we are now in 2024, and in 5 years it'll be 2029, and that will be, if my math is correct, 4 decades after the widespread introduction of Mefloquine in the United States and later in Canada. So you're pretty much right on schedule. Compared to other similar neurotoxicants and other similar toxicants, 4 decades is about right. It takes about that much time. So I'm very confident that in the next few years you're going to see significant progress on this issue. Now, perhaps just a little bit more context. I think what may prove a catalyst here, in particular, is that in recent years, in particular, large numbers of people have come to realize that when government agencies say this drug is safe, and they encourage you to take this particular drug, large numbers of people are realizing that, well, maybe they're wrong about that, right? Over the past few years, my group has not been as vocal. We haven't published as much. We haven't been as active in the limelight, largely because I recognized that, at least over the past few years, it was not the right time for me to be publicly questioning the CDC when they said, a particular drug they recommend might not be safe. The colleagues of mine who said that in other contexts had their medical licenses threatened and, were subject to sanction. But I believe that those days are now over. I believe they're over. And particularly in the United States, what we're seeing in electoral politics is that apparently the majority of voters in the United States are supporting one candidate or another that has embraced, as part of their campaign platform, this notion that perhaps our drug regulators have gotten it wrong. Not always, but at least on 1 or 2 occasions, right? That perhaps some of the supposed experts that have been getting all of the TV and radio time, perhaps they've been wrong about 1 or 2 things, right? And all of this is to say that this message that perhaps Mefloquine is a little more dangerous than the experts have been saying, this message is going to resonate more and more in the coming years as people start to re-examine the trustworthiness of folks that, supposedly have been the experts on this issue for many years. So the past few years, perhaps we had lost a little bit of steam, perhaps we had lost a little bit of momentum, and it might have been somewhat of a tactical setback. But from a strategic perspective, looking at the bigger picture, I think this is actually going to propel this issue forward. And I do believe that we are on the verge of some significant progress in this. And I don't know where the catalyst will come from. There are a number of potential catalysts. There are actions in the United Kingdom. There are a number of actions in Ireland. There are several actions in the United States. And of course, as we're probably going to hear, there are actions underway in Canada. One of those actions will serve as the spark, it will serve as the catalyst. And one of those actions will result in some kind of concession, some type of admission, some type of acknowledgement And whether that will be accompanied by a significant settlement or some significant monetary benefit to the plaintiffs, that's uncertain. But I am confident that there will be some form of acknowledgement. And once that happens in one jurisdiction, once one domino falls, then the others will fall in rapid succession. So I do think continued patience is important. I often remind folks that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And really, it's best to think of this as a double marathon, meaning that if you think the finish line is right in front of you, well, okay, you just have to do it all over again one more time, and then you'll finally get there. But I'd encourage you all to remain optimistic, remain patient, and know that we are right on schedule. All right. I've already spoken far longer than I said I would. I appreciate your patience, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here and for your hospitality and all the kind words. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Nevin. Much appreciated. Your address actually is a good segue into our next speaker. There's several veteran groups around the world, I guess, tackling the mefloquine from a legal standpoint. We have some veterans here as well that are doing the exact same. So I'd like to ask Mr. Mike Henry to come up. He is the founding partner in the law firm Howie, Sachs and Henry. So I'd just like to ask him to come up and address and give us an update on the mass tort lawsuit. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for having me here. Thanks. And there's been a nice lead in from Cathay. Thank you very much. And of course, Dr. Nevin. So I appreciate you kind of giving the heads up as to why I'm here. Some of you who know about the lawsuit are probably thinking that Paul was going to be here, Paul Miller. He's a partner of mine. He recently had some great success on a part of the Ukrainian Airlines case. And so he is off in Europe speaking at a conference there about his success. And so I like to think that I won the flip, so to speak, and I got to come to beautiful Victoria, and I love it here. It's beautiful, and I really appreciate you setting it up. Marj, I mean, you've been doing this for so many years, your dedication to everybody and this cause, and just bringing it to the forefront for the vets. And of course, it's also opening up knowledge about mefloquine and mefloquine poisoning for the greater general public. So I'm very grateful to you. So just a little bit about me. I am, as you heard, a partner at Howie, Sachs and Henry. Henry is me. As I used to say when I was younger, the Henry in the firm is not my father. We do only litigation, trial work, personal injury for injured individuals. We were fortunate, and the vets are actually quite fortunate, that we have Paul Miller in our firm. And I'll tell you a little bit of history before I get into the lawsuit itself. About 5 years ago, I was at home in Ottawa for Christmas and got a phone call from a friend of the family, from someone from the Legion. A vet wanted to talk to me about mefloquine and mefloquine poisoning. I met with him. We had a coffee. And as Dr. Nevin said yesterday, in my mind, I was thinking a little bit about the tin hat. And I thought it was a bit strange, but then I went home, got on the computer, and I was looking at mefloquine and started to see that something kind of stumped. And I went back to the office and I said to Paul, who had just joined our firm, and he did class action work, and he's actually really the father of what is called mass tort work in Canada. And Paul says, there's got to be more than just this one vet, who, by the way, has, God rest his soul, has since passed. But there's got to be more than one. And so we started looking into it, looked into Dr. Nevin's work, and we decided to do some town halls. And we went across Canada. We did 3 or 4 or 5 of them out east. We came out to Edmonton. I don't think we made it to Vancouver. I know I didn't. But we ended up seeing that there was really something there, and we ended up getting, give or take, 3,000 vets who say they've been affected by mefloquine. And so we saw this as something that needed attention. As a lawyer, I mean, yeah, We want lawsuits, and we want to win, and we want to get paid, and people are happy to get compensated. But just a little bit personal, and I spoke about this on the Hill when you asked me to speak a few years ago, Mark. My great-grandfather was at Vimy, and he was injured on the second day. And his whole life, he suffered from his injuries, and I could see that. My grandfather was in World War II, and he would never, ever talk about what happened. My father, fireman, and, this is going to expand perhaps in terms of what we have someone who's in the Peace Corps is going to speak a little bit later. Mefloquine wasn't given to fire persons, but my father has a cancer from being a fireman. And it was one that wasn't acknowledged for many, many, many years. And then suddenly it was. And thank God, because otherwise his treatments would have bankrupted us. So it's a cause really close to my heart that the vets are being treated so poorly by the government, being ignored. And we decided at that point, we're going to do this. So we looked into it. And surprise, surprise, there was a class action. It was started by a lawyer in North Bay, Ontario. It had been sitting around for about 10 years. Nothing was going on. And we thought, well, why? And we looked into it more, and there really wasn't any answers. And we decided, forget about the class action. Paul, who's the father of mass torts in Canada, and this is true, he is the guy. He says, let's do a mass tort. We got 3,000 vets, and that's what we're doing. So about 2 years ago, we started the mass tort lawsuit, and it only names a couple of dozen vets. And the reason for that is because you don't have to name everyone, and you can test case individual ones, the best ones. And so what's happened is that the government has really tried to stall us. They've tried many ways to delay. They have, the whole thing about the drug company, and we heard how bad the drug is from Dr. Nevin, if not used properly and whatnot. So we've been through all kinds of discussions with them, and really it just keeps kind of being pushed. And then, of course, there's an election, and that delays things when we have changes there. Now, nothing changed now. So you can take from that, obviously, that this present government aren't really friends of the vets, and they're certainly not friends of the litigation. And you heard from Cathay, and she is of the other ilk. She's a conservative. And no promises. The Conservatives haven't said that they're going to do anything different, and who knows? But we know that Cathay has been a very strong and vocal advocate on behalf of the vets and mefloquine poisoning. So I would never tell someone how to vote. But in the next election, you might want to seriously consider your vote in terms of your own personal situation as it comes to mefloquine. Now, the next step in the litigation is the biggest one, and this is probably the most important thing that's going on. In January, the government has dropped the big bomb, so to speak. They want to throw the case out, and they're basing that on, and I will actually read to you exactly what their pleading says. That's a document where they say, we're not at fault, we didn't do anything wrong. To the extent that the alleged harm of the CAF members or RCMP, because there were some policing actions where the RCMP were involved that we're also being involved in, are connected to any individual plaintiff's service abroad with the CAF or as part of an international policing mission, any alleged compensable injury flowing from the ingestion of mefloquine is compensable pursuant to the VWA and the PA and the applicable RCMP Superannuation Act. So they're saying that you're already, if you've been harmed, being compensated. They're also saying, if that wasn't enough to insult your intelligence, further and in the alternative, an order staying the mefloquine actions pursuant to section blah, 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 Veterans Wellbeing Act, in the alternative, a section of the Pension Act. They want it stayed until such time that the plaintiffs in the mefloquine action exhaust all available disability benefits under the Veterans Well-Being Act or the Pension Act. So, there we go. So I ask you, as a veteran, having heard that, has the government treated you properly? Has the government compensated you for your mefloquine poisoning? Has a system been set up to treat you fairly for your mefloquine poisoning? Has a system of treatment been set up to treat you, to help you with your mefloquine poisoning? The government's talking out of both sides of its mouth. There's a contradiction between its public statements and its private actions. It won't recognize mefloquine poisoning, and you heard from Dr. Nevin at great length, who's a leader in the field, and he's invested all his time and energy in dealing with mefloquine. They won't provide compensation. They won't set up a proper treatment regime that cares and takes care of the vets. Yet, Veterans Affairs says that it treats the vets fairly. In fact, what it's really doing is it's blocking justice and compensation that is owed to the veterans. We know that there are other countries where there have been this kind of litigation, and there's been some success. And it's this type of thing, along with all of your efforts outside of the lawsuit, that are going to help bring public awareness, not only to mefloquine for veterans, but just generally in respect of mefloquine and mefloquine poisoning in and of itself. So as of January, there's this hearing with the government. Now, if we lose, our intention is to appeal, obviously. If we're successful, as we hope and expect that we will be, that doesn't mean it's going to be over. Litigation's long. You heard from Dr. Nevin. We could be another 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, I hope not. Because the sooner we can get this dealt with properly, the better. The government might realize when this motion that they're bringing to throw it out is lost, that the jig is up. And if they do, then hopefully we can talk sense and work on some kind of a plan for compensation and proper acknowledgement and treatment. They may not. We may have to do the next steps, discovery, even trial. And the reason why I told you about my family situation is we're very invested at our firm to see this through to its conclusion, to get the compensation. That is our goal. Not only to get compensation, but to recognize mefloquine poisoning and to find funds for research and treatment of mefloquine poisoning for veterans. So I'd just like to say, and I think I've talked a little longer than I expected, a little passionate about this. Some of you are in this lawsuit, and on success, you will be compensated and all the things we talked about. Some of you are not. And the group is closed, but I welcome you when I'm done talking, when we're finished. Come and see me. Give me a card. I want to hear your stories. Every voice adds to the outcry against the government to do the right thing by the veterans. Every voice. We have very devout advocates. Marj, Dr. Nevin. Of course, I'm not gonna miss Cathay, and we have some vets like Dave Bona, John Dow, Mick Rude. I mean, these guys, they talk to vets, they travel across the country for awareness. I mean, they just go above and beyond. I mean, it's an unbelievable group of people that are here to support you. They support us in the litigation, and their tireless efforts. All you need to do is tell me your story. Look at social media. Do the likes. Do the comments. Every time you do a comment, someone sees it, there's another comment. 180-some thousand people were watching that. That's incredible. That's what brings this to the attention of the government so that things can change, that things can be done to help the vets. So in closing, it's an honor to speak to all of you today. I'm not a vet. I can't imagine what you've gone through. I know from my father, my family, what the families and the vets go through. I've seen that. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. And yeah, I'm just so thrilled to be here in beautiful British Columbia. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Much appreciated. Momentum. We're going to move forward now with Ms. Erin Mercer. She was in the Peace Corps and was prescribed Mefloquine in 2008 while serving. So I'd like to welcome her up and share your story. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm the first person up here that has no experience with public speaking, and I'll do my best. So yes, my name is Erin Mercer, and I'm from Florida. I served in the United States Peace Corps in Kenya. I was a deaf education, and in 2008, I went over there, and with the Peace Corps, the first 2 months were all together in training, and we met up in Philadelphia, and we're given our first pill the night before we went to Kenya. And then we're all taking our pills together in the training in Kenya, and no one really spoke to us about things. The two things they told us is that the side effects could be dreams and anxiety. And that was pretty much all that we were told. I know that we were given the boxes. They just handed us boxes. They did not have any kind of prescription information on them, not my name on anything. One volunteer had an article about supposedly the military was ending the use for Mefloquine, but with the two dreams and anxiety, we all pretty much felt like we can handle this until it becomes a problem, because they told us that Mefloquine cost 13 cents a pill once a week, and Malrone costs $14 a day. So we kind of felt like if you request to be changed over to the other option, it would be a burden. Peace Corps' budget is low. Then at 2 months, we each got sent to our site, and in Peace Corps, pretty much that means you're sent alone to live in a village on your own. So there's not really any day-to-day conversation about what's going on. I know that other people were having major dreams because one volunteer wanted to start a newsletter, and the title was going to be Meth Dreams. And everybody understood. So my site was along the coast, luckily, because after about 10 months in September of 2009, everyone decided to come to the coast, and we all went near Murray's site and stayed at a hotel, and we're all sharing rooms at a hotel. And that night, I woke up, the person who I was sharing a room with, having a seizure. The next day, I was flown to Nairobi, and I spent a month in and out of the hospital, probably because of a bad lumbar puncture, but they blamed the initial seizure on an infection. They did not mention Mefloquine at all. When I got back to site, I lasted a few months, but felt like things were still an issue. Like, I did not feel healthy. That things still felt like there was a problem going on, so I left the Peace Corps early, and went home in January of 2010, and then in 2011, luckily within the 2-year limit,
I had another seizure, and in my sleep. And since it was within our 2-year limit in the United States, I was able to apply for workers' comp and get specifically and only epilepsy covered. I still had no idea about the possibility of Mefloquine and the possibility of permanence of your side effects. So I was still blaming it on the infection that I supposedly had. It wasn't until 2017 that I saw an article about another Peace Corps volunteer, that was talking about the symptoms they had from Mefloquine. And I requested all my paperwork, and right there in my claim for acceptance of workers' comp, it said Mefloquine related, ? Now, I had never seen that and never heard anything about that. And so since then, I have been diagnosed with epilepsy and been fighting seizures. I didn't know it for the whole time. Starting in Kenya, after my first seizure, full seizure, I'd had what are called partial seizures and didn't even realize the deja vu, what I call the Matrix, where I just feel like everything's fake and things like that, are actually petit mal or partial seizures. But I have been seeing a neurologist, and for many years that was all that my coverage would pay for. Workers' comp in the United States, it's very difficult to get things accepted, to get the money reimbursed that you have to spend on things. That's always a struggle. So it is just amazing to be here with other people that understand and know. And all of my research that I've done since 2017, when I found out about Mefloquine and that I could still be having side effects from Mefloquine, I have felt like everyone needs to see it and everyone needs to know and everyone needs to be a part of this community. So I wanted to let you guys know I've started a website called MEF-Action, Mefloquine International Action Network, and there is a ton of informational links to articles, and I'm always updating. I have a huge stack of stuff I still need to add at home, and I'm always want more input about things that people know about, connections, because I want this to be all around the world, that we can talk to each other and share what's going on and everything, and even let people know the little things that we've found out that works, that maybe you can try this vitamin or something that has worked for you. So please come and talk to me or email me. The email for the website is action@mefaction.com. So that is what I wanted to share with everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mercer, for sharing your story with us. Also, I'd like to move on to Mr. Dave Bona now. He's been advocating and he's been unwavering advocacy, advice, and support to his fellow veterans regarding Mefloquine. Has been noble and definitely one to acknowledge. So I'd just like to welcome him here to the stage and to address the audience, please. Mr. Dave Bona.
Just like to thank everyone that showed up today. Greatly appreciated. I remember way back when this started, I started, when I found out about the Mefloquine poison, I started actually tracking down the guys I was deployed with. And I noticed an alarming trend. A lot of the guys I was deployed with were not doing very well. They were, doing PTSD treatment. They weren't responding to treatment. There was a lot of addiction issues. And we had a disturbing amount of people that were no longer with us. Some obvious suicides, some not so obvious suicides. Had a good friend of mine get really drunk one night, and on his way home, he went out of his way to cross a bridge he doesn't normally cross, and he walked right into oncoming traffic. I've keep on coming across this trend with people that have been poisoned by mefloquine. One of the most profound conversations I had was with the mother of a veteran, an American veteran. When I described what a mefloquine rage was, right away the soldier's mom recognized what I was describing, because the guy, his pupils would fully dilate, so his eyes looked black, his skin was pale, he had trouble forming words. But this young man, in his rage, picked up his mom and threw her through the kitchen wall. And when he came down from his seizure, he jumped on his motorbike and drove into a bridge abutment. So there's many ways of committing suicide that aren't so obvious, because when people have kids, they have spouses, they choose methods that aren't as obvious to people. One of my methods that I had fall back was to accidentally drive into a semi out on the highway, which was always in my back pocket. And there was, so what I'd like to do is just, we'll take a moment to have a moment of silence for all those people that are not with us. Before I do that, though, I'd just like to mention a couple of names. The first one being Bev Skorniak. She was one of the civilian advocates that came on board early on. And what she did was, my illiterate posts online, Bev would clean them up for me. Make me not sound like a freaking idiot. A raving idiot. Bev was poisoned on her honeymoon with her husband by mefloquine. She struggled and struggled with the depression associated with mefloquine. She was out in Saskatchewan there a few years back visiting her family, and she lost her bout with mefloquine, and she took her life. There's Boyd Decker, fellow Royal, who rebadged to medic. Few deployments with him. He lost his battle with mefloquine. And I'd just like to reach out to the audience. If there's anyone else that you know you served with that you'd like to mention now, please come forward. Or shout out their name. I know. Shannon, yes. And the name goes on, goes on. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Once you start digging into the forums, you start talking to veterans. Canadian Airborne Regiment deployed with a full complement of signalers at our regimental headquarters in '92. There's only one of them left alive out of 4, and they've all committed suicide, all 3 of them. Once you start digging, it's actually quite eye-watering. So, if you'll just take a minute, we'll have a moment of silence just to remember all those people. Yeah.
And thank you, Mr. Bona. All right. So moving along, I'd just like to call up Mr. Mick Rude. He is definitely the man of the hour, leading his tour with the Rude Awakening Tour. He's been tirelessly driving across Canada, bringing awareness to find those who need help and need to learn more about Mefloquine and how to manage it. So, Mr. Rude, thank you very much for everything you're doing, and I'd like to welcome you up to the stage. Thank you.
So I'll just start off then by acknowledging 2 days ago was the Military Family Appreciation Day. And many of the families probably didn't sign up for what they're dealing with now, right? With people dealing with Mefloquine. So I've kind of changed my plan a little bit, Marj. I'm sorry, but this is my Somalia coin, right? I received it, right? It's to say it's been 31 years since Somalia, and I don't think any family has been as affected as Marj's family has been affected by Mefloquine. And so this coin is for you, Marj, right? And we talked about things differently, but this is for you. This is for the fight that you put on. You didn't know what kind of fight you were in when all this started, right? You didn't know, but you're here today, and you're still here. You're the queen of the Mefloquine battle, Marj, right? Because you kept it up, and you kept going, and you brought more people on board, and everybody came together to make it happen. So this coin is for you. And if I can read. So it's the 30th anniversary of Operation Deliverance, Somalia, 1992 to 1993, the Canadian Airborne Regiment Battle Group. So Marj, if you want to please come up.
Wow. Yep, this is very emotional for me, and I know I'm short. There was a time when I couldn't hold this coin. There was a time when everyone hated us so badly. I can't even put into words what this means. There was a time I couldn't stand by the airborne flag. And there was a time I couldn't even go to Remembrance Day. And I never think I deserved this. So I can't thank you enough. This is huge for me. Very huge. You have no idea. Thank you. Thanks.
You know, when people realize what Mefloquine really does to people and realize what its effects are, they'll stop looking at what the individual is doing and start looking at what the drug has done, right? That the drug has caused all these problems. And it's when I look at the events of Somalia, I only look at it the fact that we were all poisoned by a drug, that people, however they were, was because of the drug, that so many people acted out of the normal. People were more aggressive, paranoia, everything was going on. They turned what was elite soldiers into some not so good soldiers, right? So I have a couple other presentation. Brian Hummel. Brian, you want to come up? You can't hide. It's a battle buddy. But a quick story on the battle buddy. So in 2019, when I went to my first rally, I forgot Michael Henry's battle buddy coin. So I left Spark with my sister and ran back to the hotel, but I couldn't find the hotel. And I was running all around aimlessly. And then I ran into my sister, and and Spark had gotten away. And then I'm like, well, whatever, I got to get the Battle Buddy coin. And then Spark was at the hotel waiting for us. So I want to present this certificate of authenticity. This is to certify that Battle Buddy coin number 989 is registered to Ryan Hummel. No one gets left behind. Received from Sergeant Mick Rude, CD. Thank you for your service and sacrifice to Queen, flag, and country. I will always have your six, we band of brothers.
Thank you.
Oh, and they make coffee, Pro Patria. Yeah. So I had to wear the sweater yesterday at the Pro Patria Legion, not the Pro Patricia Legion, which I preferred, but... Okay. Yeah, go check out the awards, Bert. Okay, and finally, Dave Slope. Yep. So Dave was did all the sound system, brought it over from Vancouver. Also, Dave has worked on the podcast with me. We've done some recording in Vancouver. We've done it in St. Clair, Michigan. We've done it in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and we make it around. So, certificate of authenticity. This is to certify that Battle Buddy coin number 990 is registered to Dave Sloat. No one gets left behind. Received from Sergeant Mick Rude, CD. Thank you for your service and sacrifice to Queen, flag, and country. I will always have your six, we band of brother.
You deserve it.
And lastly, thanks for everybody for coming, and thanks Marj for keeping the fight, and thanks Dave for being her 2IC the whole time, and for everybody else, you rock.
Thank you, Mr. Rude. That's fantastic. I just want to move on to our organizer here tonight, but before she comes up and addresses, I just want to give her a humble thank you for allowing me to be the master of ceremonies today. It's an honor for me to be here today. I have my own personal story with a different drug that the military pushed through, and which I won't get into. But to be amongst the veterans here today, it was this generation that motivated me to join. So thank you for all being here. Thank you for continuing this fight. I do hope that justice and some closure comes your way very soon. Marj, thank you so much for allowing me to speak and be the master of ceremonies today. I'd like to welcome you up and address the audience, please. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Great. I can't tell you how nice it is to see you all here again today. And I know we've kept you for a while, but I just have a few things I'd like to share. I want to welcome you again to the 8th Annual Veterans Mefloquine Rally. I want to say a big thank you and a special thank you, Dr. Remington-Nevin, Mike Henry, Cathay Wagantall, for making the time every time to come here with us. You have never let me down. And the only time we couldn't be together was when COVID made it so he couldn't cross the border. At this time, I would like to thank the volunteers that stepped up to help me. I'm in Saskatchewan, so to make an event like this happen, it takes people on the ground. And I want a great group picture with you all after. I have to single one out because it's a birthday today. Happy birthday, Megan. I won't say how old. It's not ladylike. 50. Okay. Wow. It's been 32 years I've been trying to find a way to tell the world how this little white pill called Mefloquine destroyed thousands and thousands of lives. In 1992, my then husband, Master Corporal Clayton Matchette, was part of nearly 1,000 soldiers deployed to Somalia on the first wave. Off they went, full of bravado and the belief that they were doing exactly what they were trained to do. And in this case, it was to help the Somalian population to get food, water, and medication etc., from the warlords who were not letting that happen. So off they went, and they believed that their higher-ups had their back. No, instead they were made unwitting participants in an illegal drug trial with an unlicensed anti-malarial drug, Mefloquine. Health Canada had agreed to let D&D use the drug as part of a monitored drug study. Consent forms were to be signed by members, and if it was not tolerated, they were to be switched to doxycycline or Malarone, which were very tolerable alternatives. Well, D&D never had any intention of following the study. None of the requirements were even taken into consideration. No consent forms were signed, and no options were given to get off the drug if it was not tolerable. In fact, just the opposite. If it was suspected in Somalia you were not taking the pill, blood would be drawn and court-martial threatened if it was not detected in sufficient amounts in the blood. They were told, drink more water, get more rest, you'll be okay. Well, we all know the subsequent fallout of that is known as the Somalia affair today. So when all that shit happened, I knew it was because of the drug. I'd seen how it changed Clayton way before he left, so much so that I didn't even know him anymore, and I knew he wasn't fit to go. So began my journey with Mefloquine, and I wore a tinfoil hat along with Dr. Remington, and was made out as a conspiracist, and it was just so hard to be heard. So the main media continued to spread their narrative, which today we can challenge every narrative with true fact. The government, or D&D, continued to dole out Mefloquine for the next 2 decades like candy, poisoning thousands and thousands more service members in places like Rwanda and Afghanistan. And as no drug study was ever done before our troops were even on the ground 3 months, that drug was made available to the everyday traveler, now known as Larium. Same recipe, same issues. It would not be until about 2016 when continued advocacy from others and ourselves forced the FDA to change that warning box label to a black box, most severe label, and now gives the warning that this medication has the potential to cause long-lasting or permanent brain damage. So I would liken to think if you got to read that now, you'd never take that pill. So it was hopeless trying to be heard, as I was easily squashed and threatened and silenced by D&D people and their doctor, who since passed away, but who came behind everything I ever said and made me look foolish. Then one day I met a veteran named Dave Bona, and then veterans John Dow and Brandon Kett. They were being heard globally, and then it was at that time I realized that this issue was way bigger than just me. I met veteran Claude Lalancette, who was doing his first hunger strike on Parliament Hill. And I was shocked that there were others out there saying now what I'd been saying for so long. And once our advocacy joined, it was a game changer. We became a force. We were being heard globally, and so many other countries that have joined in with us. And yet here we are today, still trying to be heard by our Canadian government. But they know that if they agree that they blew it, then they're going to have to face the fallout of 3 decades worth of Mefloquine poisoning. But today you can mention the word Mefloquine and people will say, oh, that's not good. That's a bad drug. Don't take it. So I was able to take my tinfoil hat off. I was 30 years old when this happened to our family, and I'm 62 now. So I can agree with Dr. Remington, this is not a marathon, or this is a marathon, not a race, excuse me. But as sad as that sounds, I have personally been thanked by hundreds and hundreds of veterans for saving their lives. Because they now knew their enemy, that little white pill. And knowing your enemy is half the battle. So D&D got away with decades of laying the blame on Clayton and PTSD, and that misinformation led to a larger wake of human destruction, because the treatment for PTSD and Mefloquine poisoning are so vastly different. The drugs from the pharmaceuticals for PTSD amp up the symptoms for Mefloquine. Learning that these treatments are vastly different has simply saved so many lives, just that. I truly hope your attendance here this weekend has helped those that needed answers and will encourage others to step up and advocate for those that cannot. We need to turn the volume up and support the mass lawsuit in place right now. So whatever your beliefs are, we need to set them aside and have a laser-focused path to holding those accountable for destroying so many lives. I personally will not quit advocating for this cause, which I now call a global movement. I will not quit. Because it's not okay to use military personnel as guinea pigs. And it's not okay to continue to sell this drug to everyday travelers, now known as Larium, because no one truly did the study. It's not okay to destroy lives and take no responsibility for it. So when I started this rally, I had an agenda, and the rally's agenda has never changed. Our main focus, of course, is to spread awareness and save lives. And I feel we've done that over the years. We've always had an agenda. We want to hold D&D accountable for their actions. We want recognition for the wrongful, illegal drug trial and the damage done to military personnel. We want compensation for those injured and funding research for better treatment and ways to manage symptoms. I want the Somalia inquiry to be reopened and let it finish its natural course. Let the chips fall where they may. Let the charges be on those who deserve them. And let the truth be told. Because then and only then will my family and other families truly begin to heal. Let's continue to advocate, educate, and create the change we need. If you are struggling, reach out to us. Do not do this alone. We are here. I believe one voice can make a difference. I truly believe it can, and I like to think that mine did. But there is power in numbers. So let's unite our voices. And when you leave here, please continue to spread the awareness. Firstly, I want to give out a big shout out to our sponsors. Mick Rude from the Rude Awakening Tour, who sponsored our sound and our video. Trafalgar Legion, who sponsored us and let us hold our event yesterday, our educational portion with Dr. Remington. The Langford Legion, which has allowed us to use this square, supported some chairs and some tables and a barbecue. Special thanks to all of them for that. Dr. Remington, you know I'm probably one of your biggest fans, right? You're a key witness, a world expert, and your level of expertise and detail is so super helpful to this group and our online participants. So this is going to lead me into something, and I'd like Dave Bona and Mick Rude to come up here, please. So every year I choose someone that I feel as a veteran has reached out to their veteran fellows and helped. So the more you helped, the more I see that they're out there. And we've missed this one, I don't know why, for a few years. So it's like, I don't know why. But Dr. Remington, I'd like you to step forward, please, because you are our choice this year for the medals box presentation. You have helped us more than anyone on earth, and no one deserves it more. It's a medals box to put your medals in. You've got to show everybody. These medals box, this one in particular, was made by Done by Don. He's from Ontario, and they're all made unique and different, and they're not shaped. That's supposed to be your major symbol on it. You could take it out if you want. Well, be careful. So you could read the lid.
That's great.
Turn it over.
It says, for all you are, for all you do, thank you. That's, wow.
For all you are and all you do. And then it says, presented to Dr. Remington-Nevin from VMC 2024 for your dedication to Quinism research and veterans. Yes, it is. You put in there. Yeah, you're very welcome.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
If there's more in there, well, you have to see the box. That's just the lid.
Well, this
Just I didn't want to buy you a lid. This is handmade. They are all unique and handmade.
is fantastic.
I know.
That's
Yeah.
So that.
Hey.
Yeah. So this is Caduceus,
Got his medical symbol and part.
U.S. military. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very well so deserving. This be careful about the sweat opener. This lid locks in when you do. Okay.
Sir, thank you so much.
I want to thank you all who attended here today and yesterday. Online, like they said, we were at 187,000 followers yesterday. So you've reached a vast community of people. We are a community. I invite you all to belong. Let's get through this. Let's advocate. Let's continue to spread the word. Thank you to all the volunteers. And I'd love for you all to stay and have barbecue with us after and do some one-on-one and have some good visits. So thank you. This was our 8th annual Veterans Mefloquine Rally. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. Well, I'm sorry that I didn't show you my face. Amanda, here it is again. Today, anyways. It was just real quick when they started. Late, like I was told yesterday. It's a veteran thing, being late all the time. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that y'all learned something and maybe can help spread the word about Mefloquine and what it has done. And, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's been a pretty big, full event weekend for me over here. And, yeah, they all treat me the same way that everybody else does on the road. They love me, but they like to pick on me too. But that's okay. I give them the same stuff back. Anyways, I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. And please share the message about Mefloquine.